The human special ops unit made alien mercenaries think twice. The Crimson Son of Prime cast long shadows across the devastated mining colony as Captain Ghost crouched behind a twisted piece of metal that had once been part of the colony's central processing facility. Through his tactical visor, he could see the heat signatures of 12 heavily armed mercenaries methodically searching through the ruins, their reptilian forms moving with predatory precision. "Command, this is Phantom Squad. We have visual on the hostiles," whispered into his comm unit, his voice barely audible even to his own team members positioned 50 meters away in different directions. The response crackled back through his earpiece. "Copy that, Ghost. Intelligence indicates these mercs have been terrorizing human colonies across 3 sectors. Local authorities are overwhelmed. You are authorized to engage and neutralize the threat." Smiled grimly. They had made a crucial mistake when they decided to prey on human settlements. They had no idea what humanity was truly capable of when pushed too far. These particular mercenaries had been raiding outer colony worlds for months, taking human prisoners to sell in alien slave markets, stealing precious resources, and leaving destruction in their wake. Today, that reign of terror would end. There were impressive specimens by galactic standards. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, with armored hide that could deflect most standard energy weapons, and possessing strength that could crush a human skull with bare hands, they had earned a fearsome reputation across the galaxy. Their technology was advanced, their tactics brutal, and their leader, a veteran named, was wanted by law enforcement agencies on 17 different worlds. What they didn't understand about humans was something that no other species in the galaxy had yet grasped. Humans were not just another prey species. They were persistence hunters who had clawed their way to the top of their own world's food chain through cunning, adaptability, and an almost supernatural ability to turn any situation to their advantage. Sergeant Lisa, Viper, lay perfectly still in a drainage ditch 200 meters from the main group of mercenaries. Her suit, modified with adaptive camouflage technology, made her virtually invisible against the rocky terrain. Through her scope, she had a perfect view of 3 who had separated from the main group to investigate what appeared to be a human hiding spot near the colony's water purification plant. "Ghost, I have 3 tangos moving toward the water facility. They're following what looks like human tracks," she reported quietly. Those tracks were exactly where had intended them to be. Phantom Squad had spent the last 6 hours carefully preparing this battlefield, laying false trails, setting up kill zones, and positioning themselves for maximum tactical advantage. They might be physically superior, but they were walking into a carefully orchestrated trap. Corporal James Wraith was positioned in the ruins of the colony's communication center, his modified pulse rifle trained on the main group of mercenaries. The weapon had been specially adapted with human engineering improvements that increased its rate of fire and accuracy beyond manufacturer specifications. Beside him, Private Sarah Shadow Williams worked quickly with a portable hacking device, attempting to breach the communication network. "Ghost, I'm into their comm system," Shadow whispered. "These guys are confident. They're not even using encrypted channels. Apparently, they've hit 12 human colonies in the past 4 months without any real resistance." The 4th member of Phantom Squad, Staff Sergeant David Reaper Martinez, was positioned in what remained of the colony's power station. As the squad's demolitions expert, he had spent the morning rigging the entire area with carefully placed charges. When the time came, he could reshape the battlefield in seconds, cutting off escape routes and funneling the enemy exactly where the team wanted them. Through intercepted communications, the squad learned that they had received intelligence about a valuable shipment of rare earth elements that was supposed to arrive at this colony. What they had found instead was an abandoned settlement and what appeared to be evidence of a hasty evacuation. They had no idea that Phantom Squad had been waiting for them for 3 days, using the abandoned colony as bait. The mercenary leader was growing impatient. His deep, guttural voice carried across the ruins as he barked orders to his subordinates in the harsh language. "Spread out. Search every building. The humans could not have evacuated everything. There must be something valuable here." Watched as the mercenaries began to move in a search pattern that would bring them directly into the kill zones his team had prepared. They were disciplined fighters, but their arrogance was showing. They moved like predators who had never encountered serious resistance, confident that their superior size and technology would overcome any threat. "All units prepare for contact," commanded softly. Remember, these aren't mindless beasts. They're experienced fighters who've been underestimating human capabilities for too long. We're going to show them exactly what that mistake costs. The first phase of the engagement began when the three investigating the water facility triggered a motion sensor that Reaper had placed along their approach route. The sensor activated a small explosive charge that brought down part of a damaged wall, creating a loud crash that immediately focused their attention in the wrong direction. While the three aliens rushed toward the source of the noise, Viper adjusted her position slightly and prepared to take her shot. Through her scope, she could see that the lead was wearing personal energy shielding that would absorb the first few hits from conventional weapons. However, Phantom Squad didn't carry conventional weapons. The rifle Viper carried was a human modification of standard galactic small arms technology. Human engineers had discovered that by adjusting the frequency modulation of energy weapons, they could create pulses that interfered with most alien shielding systems. It was a technique that other species hadn't developed because they lacked humanity's intuitive understanding of electronics and improvisation. "Viper has the shot on the lead target," she reported. "Recommend we wait for them to reach the secondary position." Checked his tactical display. The main group of 9 was moving toward the central area where Wraith and Shadow were positioned. If everything went according to plan, the Mercenaries would be caught in overlapping fields of fire with no cover and nowhere to retreat. "Hold position, Viper. Let them get comfortable," ordered. "Wraith, report status on main group." "They're 50 meters out and closing. I count 9 tangos, all armed with heavy pulse rifles and energy blade weapons. Leader appears to be wearing enhanced armor with integrated shield generators." They had no idea that their prey was watching their every move, analyzing their equipment, and preparing to demonstrate why humans had become the galaxy's most feared military force despite being newcomers to interstellar civilization. As the minutes ticked by, the tension built steadily. Each member of Phantom Squad controlled their breathing, checked their equipment one final time, and prepared for the kind of close-quarters combat that had made human soldiers legendary across the galaxy. The trap was set. The prey had become the predator, and 12 mercenaries were about to learn a lesson that would reshape how every alien species viewed human military capabilities. In the ruins of Prime, under the light of an alien sun, 4 human special operations soldiers prepared to change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The human special ops unit made alien mercenaries think twice. The engagement began at exactly 13:47 local time when stepped into the kill zone had designated as Point Alpha. The massive commander paused, his predatory instincts suddenly alerting him that something was wrong. His scaled head turned slowly, scanning the ruins around him with eyes that had evolved for hunting in low-light conditions. "Something is not right here," growled to his lieutenant, a smaller but equally vicious named. "This place feels like a trap." His forked tongue flickered out, testing the air for chemical traces. "I smell human fear, Commander. Old fear. They were here recently but fled in panic. There is no immediate danger." What was actually smelling was a chemical compound that Shadow had synthesized and strategically placed around the colony 3 days earlier. The compound mimicked human stress pheromones, but had been designed to mask the actual scent signatures of the 4 Phantom Squad members who had been living in the ruins for the past 72 hours. Watched from his concealment as group moved deeper into the prepared battlefield. The commander was seasoned enough to be cautious, but his arrogance was overriding his instincts. After months of encountering no serious resistance from human colonies, he had grown complacent. "Wraith, you are cleared to take the shot when target reaches position 7, whispered into his comm. "Copy that, Ghost. Target acquisition confirmed. I have clear sight lines on the commander and his lieutenant." The shot came without warning. Wraith's modified pulse rifle sent a concentrated beam of energy directly into his personal shielding. Instead of absorbing the blast as expected, the shields flickered and died as the human-modified frequency disrupted their power matrix. The second shot, fired less than a half-second later, struck the commander's center mass, sending him crashing backward into a pile of debris. The effect on the remaining mercenaries was immediate and dramatic, had never encountered personal shielding failure against what appeared to be standard energy weapons. In their minds, such technology was impossible. personal shields were rated to absorb dozens of hits from conventional weapons before failing. "Ambush, take cover!" shouted, dropping behind a concrete barrier while frantically trying to understand how his commander's supposedly impenetrable defenses had been breached so easily. That was the moment when Reaper triggered the first set of explosive charges. The carefully placed demolitions didn't kill any of them directly, but they accomplished something far more valuable. They cut off 3 different escape routes and channeled the surviving mercenaries directly into overlapping fields of fire. The explosions also served as Viper's cue to engage the 3 at the water facility. Her first shot took down the lead alien's shields using the same frequency modulation that Wraith had employed. Her second shot struck him in the center of his heavily armored chest. The modified energy pulse penetrated his natural armor plating and internal organs as if they were made of paper. The other 2 at the water facility immediately dove for cover, but they had made a critical error. In their panic, they had positioned themselves exactly where Viper had predicted they would go. Pre-positioned explosive charges, triggered by remote detonation, collapsed the building they were hiding behind, trapping them under tons of rubble. Back in the main engagement area, the surviving 8 were discovering that their numerical advantage meant nothing when they couldn't see their enemies, couldn't predict where the next attack would come from, and couldn't understand how their technology was being systematically defeated. Shadow had completed her infiltration of their communication network and was now feeding false information directly into their tactical displays. Enemy position markers appeared in locations where no humans actually existed, while the real positions of Phantom Squad members remained completely invisible to their sensors. "Contact left, multiple hostiles in the storage facility," one of the reported, firing wildly at sensor ghosts that Shadow had created in their system. While half of the remaining mercenaries wasted ammunition shooting at nothing, moved with the fluid grace that had earned him his. Using the confusion created by Shadow's electronic warfare, he repositioned himself behind the scattered, moving through the ruins like a predator stalking its prey. They had been conditioned by months of easy victories against unprepared human colonies. They expected their enemies to panic, to break formation, to make the kinds of mistakes that untrained civilians make when confronted by superior force. Instead, they found themselves fighting ghosts who seemed to anticipate their every move. Was attempting to organize a tactical withdrawal when Wraith's second shot took down another mercenary. This time, the target's shields didn't just fail, they overloaded completely, creating a feedback surge that damaged the armor systems and left him vulnerable to a follow-up shot that ended his participation in the battle permanently. "How are they penetrating our defenses?" roared into his communicator. "These are primitive humans, their technology is inferior." What didn't understand was that human technology wasn't inferior, it was different. While other species had focused on creating more powerful weapons and stronger defenses, humans had concentrated on adaptability and innovation. They took existing technology and modified it in ways that its original creators had never considered. The frequency modulation technique that was devastating the shields had been developed by a human engineer who was trying to solve an entirely different problem. He had been working on communications equipment when he accidentally discovered that certain frequencies could disrupt shield generators. Within weeks, human military engineers had weaponized the discovery. Reaper triggered his second set of charges, and this time the explosions were directly targeted at enemy positions. 2 more disappeared in balls of fire and flying debris. The remaining 5 aliens found themselves scattered across the battlefield with no clear escape routes and enemies they couldn't locate attacking them from multiple directions. "Sir, we need to withdraw," one of the surviving mercenaries called to. "We're being systematically eliminated." Withdrawal snarled, "We are warriors, we do not retreat from inferior prey." That decision sealed their fate. Instead of attempting to escape while they still could, the remaining mercenaries tried to press their attack. They moved in formation toward what they believed was the source of the sniper fire, not realizing that Viper had already relocated twice and was now positioned behind them. Chose that moment to reveal himself. Rising from concealment barely 10 meters from the nearest, he opened fire with his assault rifle on full automatic. The modified weapon sent a stream of frequency-shifted energy pulses that overwhelmed the alien's personal defenses in seconds. The warrior spun around, trying to bring his own weapon to bear, but was already moving. Human combat doctrine emphasized mobility and unpredictability over brute force. Wilder was turning his massive frame, had already sprinted to new cover, and was firing from a completely different angle. The engagement became an inhuman tactical innovation. Each member of Phantom Squad used techniques that no other galactic species had developed. Wraith employed suppressive fire patterns that forced them to take cover in predetermined locations where Reaper's explosives waited. Shadow continued to feed false information into their tactical systems while simultaneously recording everything for intelligence analysis. Viper moved like a shadow through the ruins, picking off targets of opportunity while maintaining perfect coordination with her teammates. Her modified rifle had been equipped with smart ammunition that could adjust its trajectory mid-flight, allowing her to take shots around corners and through gaps in cover that should have been impossible. The psychological impact on the surviving was devastating. They had built their reputation on being unstoppable predators who could overwhelm any opposition through superior strength and technology. Now they were being systematically hunted by prey that fought like no other species they had ever encountered. Watched his warriors fall one by one, each death demonstrating tactics and technologies that challenged everything he thought he knew about human capabilities. These weren't the panicked, defenseless colonists his forces had been slaughtering for months. These were something entirely different. "Fall back to the landing zone," he finally ordered, his pride finally overcome by the reality of his situation. "Signal the ship for immediate extraction." But Phantom Squad had anticipated this move as well. Shadow had used her access to their communication system to send a false message to their ship, ordering it to maintain radio silence and remain in orbit. The vessel wouldn't be monitoring for extraction requests for another 6 hours. The mercenaries were trapped on the ground with enemies who seemed to know their every move before they made it. As realized the hopelessness of his situation, he began to understand that his forces hadn't just encountered human soldiers. They had encountered something that would change how every species in the galaxy viewed humanity. The human special ops unit made alien mercenaries think twice. The final phase of the engagement lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it ended, 11 of the 12 mercenaries lay dead among the ruins of Prime Colony. Only remained alive, and that was entirely by design. Emerged from behind a collapsed wall, his weapon trained on the wounded lieutenant. Was bleeding from several wounds, his once pristine armor cracked and smoking from multiple energy weapon impacts. His personal shields had failed completely, and his primary weapon lay shattered beside him. "Surrender and you live," said calmly, speaking in accented but fluent. "Resist and join your commander." His eyes widened in shock. Very few humans had bothered to learn alien languages, preferring to use universal translators for communication. The fact that this human soldier spoke his native tongue suggested a level of preparation and intelligence gathering that chilled him to his core. You speak the warrior tongue," gasped, yellow blood trickling from a wound on his scaled forehead. "How is this possible?" "We studied you," replied, moving closer while keeping his weapon ready. "We studied your tactics, your technology, your psychology, and your weaknesses. Did you think we would allow you to prey on our colonies without learning everything there was to know about you?" The rest of Phantom Squad emerged from their positions, converging on the captured mercenary. Shadow carried a portable medical kit, while Reaper maintained overwatch to ensure no other threats remained. Viper approached from the opposite direction, her rifle still trained on potential hiding spots where enemy forces might have taken cover. Looked at each of the human soldiers in turn, trying to understand what he was seeing. They were smaller than, obviously weaker in terms of physical strength, and their equipment appeared to be based on standard galactic technology. Yet they had just systematically annihilated a force of veteran mercenaries who had never before suffered a significant defeat. What are you?" whispered. "You are not like the other humans we have encountered." "We are exactly like every other human," Shadow said, beginning to treat his wounds with professional efficiency. "The difference is that you finally encountered humans who were ready for you." As Shadow worked, she explained the reality of human nature that most alien species had failed to understand. Humans were adaptable beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. When faced with a superior enemy, they didn't simply accept defeat or rely on their existing advantages. They studied, they learned, they innovated, and they found ways to turn enemy strengths into weaknesses. Your people have been raiding our outer colonies for months, said, crouching down to look directly into his reptilian eyes. Every attack was recorded, every tactic was analyzed, every piece of technology was studied. We learned your patterns, your preferences, and your blind spots. Wraith was busy documenting the battlefield, recording evidence of weapons and equipment that would be invaluable for intelligence purposes. Each piece of alien technology would be reverse-engineered and understood, adding to humanity's growing knowledge of galactic military capabilities. The colonists you attacked weren't soldiers, Reaper added, checking the bodies of the fallen mercenaries for intelligence materials. They were farmers, miners, and families just trying to build new lives. They had no training, no weapons, and no way to defend themselves. That made you overconfident. Was beginning to understand the magnitude of his people's mistake. The Mercenary Guild had built their reputation by targeting soft civilian targets. They had assumed that all humans were equally defenseless, never considering that humanity might have military forces specifically trained to deal with alien threats. Your error, continued, was assuming that because you could easily defeat human civilians, you could defeat human soldiers. You confused our restraint with weakness. You mistook our peaceful nature for inability to fight. Shadow finished treating wounds and stepped back. The medical care she had provided was professional and thorough, ensuring that he would survive to deliver a message to his people. In human culture, she explained, there is a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. We prefer peaceful solutions, but we are always prepared for war. The interrogation that followed revealed the full scope of the mercenary operations. Faced with the choice between cooperation and execution, provided detailed information about their base locations, their command structure, their client relationships, and their planned future operations. What he revealed painted a picture of systematic predation against human colonies across 3 sectors of space. The Mercenary Guild had identified humanity as an ideal target species advanced enough to be worth robbing, but apparently too weak to mount effective resistance. "How many ships does your guild operate?" asked, his voice remaining calm and professional despite the atrocities was describing. 47 combat vessels, replied, his voice hollow with defeat. Each capable of carrying between 20 and 50 warriors depending on configuration. Wraith looked up from the intelligence materials he was cataloging. That's potentially over 2,000 mercenaries operating in human space. We're operating, corrected. Shadow, transmit our findings to Fleet Command. Include full tactical analysis and recommendations for follow-up operations. As Shadow worked with her communication equipment, she explained to what was about to happen. Every mercenary base you've identified will be visited by human forces within the next 72 hours. Your guild's operations in human space are over. His remaining functional eye widened in terror. You cannot. We have contracts with dozens of species. Our clients expect. Your clients will find new mercenaries, Reaper interrupted. One smart enough not to target human colonies. The psychological impact of the engagement extended far beyond the battlefield on Prime. Through careful intelligence gathering, Phantom Squad had identified the communication networks used by various mercenary organizations throughout the sector. Shadow had planted monitoring devices in the communication system that would allow human intelligence services to track their transmissions indefinitely. More importantly, the complete destruction of Force would send a message throughout the galactic mercenary community. Word would spread that humans were no longer easy targets. The recording Shadow had made of the engagement would be strategically leaked to mercenary information networks, showing exactly how human tactics and technology had overwhelmed supposedly superior alien forces. Your people need to understand something, said, standing over the defeated. Humans are peaceful by choice, not by weakness. We prefer trade to warfare, cooperation to conquest. But when forced to fight, we fight to win. Viper had finished securing the battlefield and was preparing charges to destroy any sensitive equipment the team couldn't carry. The problem with being a predator, she said to, is that you never know when you're going to encounter an apex predator. As the human soldiers prepared to leave Prime, they made sure understood his mission. He would be released with a functioning communication device and enough supplies to survive until his guild's rescue forces could locate him. His job was to deliver a message to every mercenary organization in the galaxy. Tell them, said as the team prepared to board their extraction shuttle, that human space is now off limits. Any mercenary force that attacks human colonies will face the same fate as your people did here today. The shuttle that arrived to extract Phantom Squad was a sleek vessel that incorporated the same adaptive technology philosophy that had made their weapons so effective. It could operate in stealth mode, making it invisible to most scanning systems, while its engines had been modified for performance characteristics that exceeded manufacturer specifications. As they lifted off from Prime, Shadow monitored galactic communication networks for reactions to their operation. Within hours, encrypted messages were flying between mercenary organizations across the galaxy. The impossible had happened. A force of veteran warriors had been completely destroyed by a handful of humans using apparently standard equipment. Ghost were receiving multiple communication intercepts, Shadow reported. The Black Fleet has canceled 3 planned operations against human shipping. The raiders are redirecting their forces to avoid human space entirely. Smiled with grim satisfaction. How many mercenary organizations are changing their operational parameters? 37 confirmed so far, with more updating their threat assessments every hour. The ripple effects of their engagement on Prime would continue spreading throughout the galaxy for months to come. Mercenary forces that had viewed humans as easy targets were suddenly their risk assessments. Species that had dismissed humanity as a minor player in galactic affairs were beginning to understand that they had seriously underestimated human military capabilities. More importantly, human colonies throughout the frontier sectors would now be significantly safer. The message Phantom Squad had sent was clear and unambiguous. Humanity could defend itself, and those who threatened human civilians would face consequences they were not prepared to handle. As their shuttle entered hyperspace, carrying them toward their next mission, the 4 members of Phantom Squad knew they had accomplished more than just eliminating a mercenary threat. They had fundamentally changed how the galaxy viewed humanity, transforming their species from perceived prey into recognized predators. In the years that followed, the Battle of Prime would become required study material at military academies across human space. The tactics developed by Phantom Squad would be refined and expanded, creating new doctrines that would serve humanity well as they continued to expand their presence in a galaxy full of potential threats. But on that day, as their shuttle carried them away from the ruins of Prime, 4 human soldiers had proven something that would reshape interstellar politics forever. Humanity was not to be underestimated, and those who tried would learn that lesson the hard way.